Sun scorches the earth like a branding iron and the wind whispers secrets through the canyons. A lone cowboy rides into a forgotten town, his past trailing him like a shadow he can't outrun. But what if one simple act of kindness, a needle threading through fabric, stitches together a love that defies bullets, betrayal, and the grave itself? If this tale of passion, peril, and redemption grips you from the first word, hit that subscribe button now. Join thousands across the USA and UK who've discovered stories that transport you to worlds of raw emotion and unexpected twists, and never miss another epic narrative that could change how you see the frontier forever. The sun hung low over the jagged horizon of El Dorado Gulch, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the parched earth. It was 1875, and the town was a whisper of what it once had been, a booming mining camp now reduced to a cluster of weathered buildings clinging to life amid the Nevada desert. Dust devils danced in the streets, kicking up fine particles that stung the eyes and coated everything in a gritty veil. Into this forsaken place rode Harlan Crow, a man whose name evoked both fear and pity in the saloons from Texas to California. Harlan was tall, broad-shouldered, with a face etched by years of hard living, deep lines around his steel-gray eyes, a scar running from his temple to his jaw like a lightning bolt frozen in time. His black Stetson was pulled low, shading a gaze that had seen too much death. His horse, a sturdy bay named Whiskey, plodded wearily, its flanks lathered from the long ride. Harlan's shirt was torn at the shoulder, a ragged gash from a recent skirmish with outlaws who'd ambushed him near the Sierra Nevada Pass. Blood had dried to a crusty brown, and the fabric hung limp, exposing sun-burnt skin. He needed mending, not just for his clothes, but for his soul. Little did he know, fate had threaded a needle in the form of Eliza Thorne, the quiet seamstress whose shop sat at the edge of town like a sentinel against the wilderness. Eliza Thorne was a woman out of place in this rough world. At 28, she had the poise of someone who'd known gentler times back east, in Boston, where she'd grown up amid lace curtains and afternoon teas. But tragedy had driven her west, her husband's death in a factory fire, leaving her widowed and penniless. She'd come to El Dorado Gulch 2 years prior, setting up a tailoring shop in a small adobe building with a sign that read, "Thorne's Threads, Mending Hearts and Hems." Her hands were deft, her needle a blur as she repaired miners' overalls, cowboys' vests, and the occasional fancy dress for the saloon girls. Eliza's hair was the color of rich mahogany, often tied back in a practical bun, though stray curls escaped to frame her heart-shaped face. Her eyes were a deep emerald, holding a quiet strength that belied the loneliness she felt each night when the shop closed and the silence pressed in. She rarely spoke of her past, but the townsfolk whispered, she was beautiful, kind, but guarded, like a rose with thorns hidden beneath its petals. On this particular afternoon, as the bell above her door tinkled, Eliza looked up from her sewing machine to see Harlan Crow filling the doorway, his presence sucking the air from the room like a sudden storm. Harlan removed his hat, revealing tousled dark hair streaked with premature gray. "Ma'am," he said, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder, "I hear you're the one to see for fixin' up a man's shirt. Got a tear here that needs tendin'." He gestured to his shoulder, wincing slightly as he did. Eliza stood, smoothing her apron, her gaze taking in the stranger's rugged form. There was something about him, a weariness in his eyes that mirrored her own. Hidden sorrows. "Of course," she replied softly, her accent still carrying a hint of New England refinement. "Let me take a look. You'll need to remove it, though, so I can assess the damage properly." Harlan hesitated, glancing around the empty shop, but nodded. He unbuttoned the shirt with calloused fingers, revealing a torso marked by old scars, bullet wounds, knife slashes, the badges of a life on the run. Eliza's cheeks flushed faintly, but she maintained her composure, focusing on the fabric rather than the man. As she examined the tear, her fingers brushed his skin accidentally, sending a spark through both of them, a quiet moment that neither acknowledged, yet it lingered like smoke after a gunshot. While Eliza worked, threading her needle with expert precision, Harlan sat on a stool, his gun belt slung over the back, revolvers glinting in the fading light. He wasn't one for small talk, but something about her steady presence drew words from him. "Been ridin' hard from Carson City," he muttered. "Outlaws jumped me. Lost a good friend in the fray." Eliza paused, her needle hovering. "I'm sorry for your loss. This town's seen its share of violence. What brings you here, if you don't mind me asking?" Harlan's jaw tightened. "Lookin' for work. Maybe prospectin'." Heard there's still gold in these hills. It was a lie, of course. Harlan was no prospector, he was a bounty hunter, chasing a notorious gang led by Black Jack Malone, the man who'd killed his brother 5 years ago in a botched bank robbery. But he couldn't tell her that, not yet. As Eliza sewed, her stitches neat and strong, she shared snippets of her own story. The fire that took her husband, the journey west on a rattling stagecoach, the struggle to build a life from scraps. Their conversation flowed like a gentle stream, unexpected and refreshing in the arid desert of their lives. By the time she finished, the sun had dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Harlan slipped the mended shirt back on, the fabric now whole, the seam invisible. "How much do I owe ya?" he asked, reaching for his pouch. Eliza shook her head. "No charge. Consider it a welcome to El Dorado Gulch." Their eyes met, and in that quiet western moment, something shifted, a spark of connection, fragile as a new thread. Harlan tipped his hat. "Obliged, ma'am. Name's Harlan Crow." "Eliza Thorne," she replied, a small smile breaking through. As he stepped out into the cooling evening, Harlan felt a pull he hadn't known in years. Love was emerging, stitch by stitch, but the twists of fate were just beginning to unravel. The next day, Harlan took a room at the dusty boarding house run by old widow Jenkins, a sharp-tongued woman with a shotgun behind the counter. He spent the morning scouting the town, his eyes sharp for any sign of Black Jack's gang. El Dorado Gulch was a mix of hardy souls, miners with dirt-caked faces, saloon owners peddling watered-down whiskey, and a sheriff named Tom Riley, a portly man more interested in his poker games than law enforcement. Harlan visited the general store for supplies, picking up ammunition and jerky, all while keeping his ears open. Whispers in the saloon spoke of recent raids on nearby ranches, cattle rustled, homesteaders driven off. It sounded like Black Jack's handiwork. That afternoon, drawn by an inexplicable urge, Harlan found himself back at Thorne's Threads. Eliza was surprised to see him, her needle pausing mid-stitch on a pair of trousers. "Mr. Crow, is the shirt not holding?" He shook his head, a rare grin cracking his stern features. "Shirt's fine. Just thought, maybe you could use some help around here. Fixin' shelves or something. I'm handy with tools." It was a flimsy excuse, but Eliza saw through it, her heart warming to the gesture. "Well, that back door does stick something fierce," she admitted. Over the following weeks, Harlan became a fixture in Eliza's life. He'd repair the creaky floorboards, haul in bolts of fabric from the supply wagon, and even share meals with her in the small kitchen behind the shop, simple fare like beans and cornbread, washed down with strong coffee. Their talks deepened. Harlan spoke haltingly of his childhood on a Texas ranch, the war that had hardened him. He'd fought for the Union, a secret he guarded closely in these Confederate-leaning parts, and the brother whose death had set him on this vengeful path. Eliza opened up about her dreams deferred, the novels she read by candlelight, tales of romance and adventure that contrasted her solitary existence. One evening, as a thunderstorm rolled in from the east, lightning cracking the sky, they sat by the window watching the rain turn the dust to mud. Harlan's hand brushed hers, and this time, neither pulled away. He leaned in, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that was tentative at first, then fervent, like a dam breaking. Love had emerged fully now, woven into the fabric of their days, but the frontier was no place for unchecked happiness. Twists lurked in the shadows. Unbeknownst to Harlan, Black Jack Malone had eyes in El Dorado Gulch. One of his spies, a weaselly bartender named Silas Greer, had recognized Harlan from wanted posters, not for crimes, but as the hunter who'd taken down half his gang. Silas sent word via a rider, and soon, the outlaws were planning their move. Meanwhile, Eliza discovered she was with child, a secret joy that filled her with both elation and terror. She confided in Harlan one starry night as they lay together in her small bed above the shop, the scent of sagebrush wafting through the open window. "A family," Harlan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I never thought." But his past caught up swiftly. The next morning, as Harlan stepped out to fetch water, shots rang out. Ambush. Bullets splintered the wood around him as he dove for cover, drawing his revolvers. It was Silas and two others, guns blazing. Harlan returned fire, dropping one with a precise shot to the chest, but a bullet grazed his arm, blood blooming like a crimson flower. Eliza heard the commotion and rushed out, her heart pounding. "Harlan!" she cried, grabbing a rifle from inside the shop. a gift from her late husband she'd kept hidden. She fired, her aim true from childhood lessons in the woods back east, hitting Silas in the leg and sending him sprawling. The remaining outlaw fled into the alleyways. Harlan staggered to his feet, clutching his wound. "You saved me," he said, awe in his voice. But the incident drew the sheriff's attention, and soon, questions arose. Who was Harlan really? Rumors spread like wildfire. He was a killer, a drifter with blood on his hands. Eliza defended him fiercely, but doubt crept in. That night, as she mended his new wound, another shirt torn, another seam to stitch, she pressed him. "Tell me the truth, Harlan. All of it." With a heavy sigh, he confessed. The bounty hunting, the vendetta against Black Jack, the lives he'd taken in the name of justice. Eliza's face paled, but her love held firm. "We'll face it together," she vowed. Yet, the twists deepened. Black Jack himself arrived in town under the cover of darkness, a towering figure with a black beard and eyes like coal. He holed up in an abandoned mine shaft, plotting revenge. His gang numbered 10 now, hardened men with no scruples. They kidnapped Widow Jenkins as bait, leaving a note nailed to Harlan's door. "Come to the old silver mine at midnight, alone, or the old lady dies." Harlan had no choice. He kissed Eliza goodbye, promising to return, but she refused to. "Stay behind. I'm part of this now," she insisted, tucking a derringer into her boot. They rode out together under a full moon, the desert alive with nocturnal sounds, coyotes howling, owls hooting omens. At the mine, torches flickered, casting eerie shadows. Black Jack stepped forward, his grin feral. "Well, if it ain't the brother killer's avenger. And who's this?" "Your little seamstress whore." Harlan's fists clenched, but he held back. "Let the widow go. This is between us." The showdown erupted in chaos. Guns barked, echoes reverberating through the shafts. Harlan took down 2 outlaws with quick draws, but Black Jack was cunning, using the widow as a shield. Eliza, hidden in the rocks, fired her derringer, wounding Black Jack's arm and freeing the widow. In the melee, Harlan and Black Jack grappled, tumbling into the mine's entrance. Fists flew, knives flashed. Black Jack revealed a shocking twist. "Your brother wasn't innocent, Crow. He was in on the robbery, double-crossed me." Harlan faltered, the revelation hitting like a gut punch. Was his vengeance built on a lie? In that moment of doubt, Black Jack stabbed him in the side, but Harlan rallied, driving his own knife into the outlaw's heart. Black Jack slumped, dead, his secrets dying with him. Wounded and bleeding, Harlan staggered out, supported by Eliza. The remaining gang scattered, pursued by the awakened sheriff and a posse. Back in town, as Eliza stitched Harlan's deepest wound yet, not just flesh, but spirit, they confronted the truth. Investigations revealed Black Jack's words were half lies. Harlan's brother had been coerced, not complicit. Redemption came, but at a cost. Months later, their child was born, a boy with his father's eyes and mother's resilience. They left El Dorado Gulch, heading to California for a fresh start, where Harlan hung up his guns and Eliza opened a new shop. But peace was fleeting, years passed, and old enemies resurfaced. Twist upon twist unfolded. Their son, named Jacob, grew into a young man, inheriting Harlan's wanderlust. At 18, Jacob discovered a hidden letter in Eliza's sewing box, revealing she had a secret from her past. Her first husband hadn't died in the fire, he'd faked his death to escape debts, abandoning her. The shock drove Jacob west, seeking answers, only to cross paths with remnants of Black Jack's gang, now led by his bastard son, seeking vengeance. Harlan, now gray and limping from old wounds, rode out once more, Eliza at his side, her needle replaced by a resolve of steel. In a climactic confrontation atop a mesa, under a blood-red sunset, father and son united against the foes. Bullets flew, alliances shattered, Jacob learned his mother's strength, Harlan his son's courage. In the end, love endured, stitches holding against the tears of time. But the story didn't end there. As the family returned home, a greater threat loomed. A railroad baron, corrupt and powerful, aimed to seize their land for tracks. Eliza, ever the tailor, wove a plan, using her eastern connections to rally investors and expose the baron's fraud. Harlan provided the muscle, Jacob the youth's fire. In boardrooms and gunfights, they fought, twists revealing betrayals within their own circle. The sheriff, once an ally, was on the take. A daring heist on the baron's train uncovered documents proving his crimes, leading to his downfall. Yet, in the victory, tragedy struck. Eliza was shot in the crossfire, her life hanging by a thread. Harlan's desperate ride to fetch a doctor mirrored his first arrival, but this time, love's emergence was a rebirth. She survived, scarred but stronger, their bond unbreakable. Decades later, in the quiet of their ranch, Harlan and Eliza sat on the porch, watching grandchildren play. The West had changed, trains chugged, towns grew, but their story remained a testament to that initial quiet moment. Love, tailored from pain and perseverance, had emerged triumphant through every twist. And so, the frontier whispered their legend, a tale of hearts mended like shirts, enduring forever.